It is a Saturday morning in May, and you are standing in the fertilizer aisle at the home improvement store, staring at a wall of bags. $54 for the name brand, $39 for the store brand, and a young fellow in an apron telling you the program calls for 4 applications a year. You do the math right there in the aisle, and it comes out over $200 a season just to keep the grass green. So you buy the bag, you haul it home, you spread it across the yard, and 6 weeks later the lawn looks about the same, and the weeds look better than ever. Here's the thing. For 25 years I stood on the other side of a hardware store counter selling those bags, and the greenest lawn on my street has never once belonged to the fellow who bought the most of them. Today I'm going to show you a liquid feeding you can mix at your own kitchen sink for about $3, and why it greens up a lawn faster than anything I ever stocked on that shelf. And stay with me all the way to the end, because this mixture goes down in the evening, never in the midday sun. And that is not an old wives' tale. It is one specific thing the sun does to this mixture sitting on a grass blade, and it is the whole difference between the folks who swear by this recipe and the folks who tried it once and swear it burned their lawn. I'm Larry Mitchell. For 25 years I ran the lawn and garden counter at our town's hardware store here in Ohio, and every bag and bottle in that aisle came across my counter at one time or another. I watched what folks returned, and I watched what they came back to buy again. These days I just keep my own suburban lawn, and my wife Diane will tell you it's my second marriage. Now let me tell you what that $50 bag never explains, and it isn't any kind of scheme. It's just plain commerce. Grass turns green for one reason above all others, and that reason is nitrogen. Nitrogen is the nutrient that builds the green blade itself, and every fertilizer bag on that shelf, from the cheapest to the dearest, is selling you nitrogen in one form or another. But when you buy a granular bag, most of what you're paying for is not the food. You're paying for the little clay pellets that carry it, the slow-release coating around it, the heavy plastic bag, the trucking, and the television commercials. The nitrogen itself is cheap. It always has been. And granules have a second problem I watched play out for 25 years at that counter. A granule has to sit on your soil, catch enough water to dissolve, and break all the way down before a single root can drink it. In cool spring weather, that can take 2 or even 3 weeks. A liquid feeding skips the whole line. It is dissolved before it ever leaves the sprayer, so the grass takes some of it in right through the blade the very same evening, and the rest washes straight down to the roots below. That is why the mixture I'm about to show you turns color faster than anything in a bag. And hold on to that word, evening, because I promised you the reason this never goes down in sunshine. And when we get there, it is going to explain everything, including every burned lawn ever blamed on this recipe. But feeding the grass is only half the job, and I'd be doing you wrong if I skipped the other half. If your lawn is carrying clover and crabgrass and dandelions, a good feeding grows them right along with the grass. Everything I know about winning that other half, I wrote down in a book called Larry's 30-Day Weed Kill Protocol. It is the exact day-by-day system I follow to wipe out clover, crabgrass, dandelions, and the rest in 30 days, and to keep them from coming back next season. 88 pages, no fluff, just the plan, written step by step the same way I'm talking to you right now, including organic and pet-safe options for folks who want them. It's $17 right now, marked down from $47, and $17 is less than 1 jug of name-brand weed spray that only handles one kind of weed. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right. Thank you for letting me mention that. Now let's head to the kitchen sink and put this fertilizer together. The whole recipe has 3 ingredients: and I'd bet good money 2 of them are already in your house. Plain household ammonia, Epsom salt, and ordinary dish soap. That's the whole list. Let's walk through it together, one ingredient at a time, because I never want you spraying anything on your lawn without knowing exactly what it does and why. First, the ammonia. Household ammonia is that clear bottle in the cleaning aisle, usually about $2, sitting there next to the window cleaner. And here is what ammonia actually is. It is nitrogen and water. That's it. The very same nitrogen that makes up the biggest number printed on any fertilizer bag in the store. When this soaks into your soil, the soil breaks it down into the exact form of food that grass roots drink every single day of the growing season. You are buying the same nutrient the bag sells, without the pellet, without the coating, and without the commercial. Now, 3 safety points on ammonia, and I mean every one of them. Point 1. Buy the plain, clear ammonia. Not the sudsy kind. Not the lemon-scented kind. Plain and clear, and read the label to be sure. Point 2. Never, and I mean never, let ammonia anywhere near bleach. Not in the same bucket. Not in the same sprayer. Not one right after the other. Ammonia and bleach together make a poisonous gas, and that is true in your bathroom, and just as true in your garage. If a sprayer has ever held bleach, it does not get used for this. Point 3. Wear rubber gloves when you pour it, and do your mixing outdoors, or next to an open window. Treat it with the same respect you give any cleaner under your sink, and you will be perfectly fine. Second ingredient, Epsom salt. That's the big bag at the drugstore that folks pour into a bath for sore muscles. About $5, and 1 bag will last your lawn all season long. Epsom salt is magnesium and sulfur, and here is a little piece of counter-wisdom for you. Inside every blade of grass is chlorophyll, the green pigment that does all the work. And sitting at the very center of every single molecule of chlorophyll is exactly 1 atom of magnesium. No magnesium, no green. It is that direct. Plenty of tired, pale lawns are not starving for nitrogen at all. They are short on magnesium, and no amount of bagged fertilizer fixes that, because most bags don't carry any. The sulfur riding along with it deepens the color another shade. That is the part of this recipe that gives you the dark green, not just green. Third ingredient, plain dish soap, and only a little. Grass blades wear a thin, waxy coat, the same way a freshly waxed car sheds rain. Spray plain water on a healthy blade, and it beads up and rolls right off into the thatch. A teaspoon of dish soap breaks that bead, so the mixture spreads across the blade and sticks long enough to soak in. 1 teaspoon for the whole batch. Not a squirt, not a glug. More soap does not mean better, and too much will stress the grass. 1 teaspoon. Now, a fair question, and folks asked me a version of it across the counter for 25 years. If this works, Larry, why didn't your store sell it? And the honest answer is simple commerce. Nothing shadier than that. There is no money in it. Nobody can put a brand on a bottle of plain ammonia and a bag of bath salt. There is no patent to own, no repeat program to sign you up for, no spring commercial to run. A hardware store makes its living on the bag you buy every May, not on the recipe that costs $3 and doesn't need a shelf. So the recipe lived where it has always lived, passed along over back fences and coffee cups, from the folks who kept the greenest yards in town. I heard it from an old groundskeeper who bought his sprayer parts from me and never once bought a bag of fertilizer. It took me 2 summers of watching his lawn from my truck before I finally asked him why. Now the math, because I promised you $3. A cup of ammonia out of a $2 bottle costs you maybe 50 cents. A cup of Epsom salt out of that $5 bag, call it 60 cents. The teaspoon of soap is pennies, and the water comes out of your hose. Even counting generously, the whole batch lands right around $3. That's $3, and it feeds about 2,500 square feet of lawn. The bag on the shelf treats the same ground for 10 times that, and I watched a customer of mine prove the difference for years. Every May he bought the premium bag. Every June he came back unhappy, and every year I rang him up again. The store made good money on that man. His lawn never did look any better. Confusion is expensive, and that is really what those bags are selling. Run the season out and the gap gets wider. The bag program is 4 applications. Call it $200 by October, plus the spreader, plus the trip back to the store every time. This recipe, fed every 3 weeks through spring and again through fall, comes to maybe 8 batches. 8 batches at $3 is $24 for the entire year, and the sprayer you buy once. That difference, right around $175 a season, is real money for most of the folks watching this, and it stays in your pocket every single year from here on out. That is not a coupon. That is a raise. All right, gloves on. Let's mix it and take your time with every step. There's no hurry on any of this. You will need a hose end sprayer, the kind with a jar that screws onto the end of your garden hose. If you don't own one, it runs about $12 at the hardware store, and it is the only tool this whole recipe asks for. Step 1. Run about a quart of warm water into a clean pitcher. Warm water matters, because Epsom salt dissolves clean in warm water and sits gritty in cold. Step 2. Pour in 1 cup of Epsom salt. That is 1 full measuring cup, 8 ounces, not a guess. Step 3. Stir until the water turns clear again. When you can't see grains swirling, it's ready. Step 4. Put your rubber gloves on if they aren't on already. Step 5. Measure 1 cup of plain ammonia. 1 cup. An 8-ounce measuring cup, filled to the line, not a pour and a prayer. This number is the one that keeps your lawn safe, so measure it. Step 6. Pour the ammonia into the pitcher with the Epsom salt water. Step 7. Add 1 teaspoon of plain dish soap and stir gently. Slow circles. You are blending it, not whipping up suds. Step 8. Pour the whole pitcher into your hose end sprayer jar and top the jar off with plain water. Screw the jar onto the sprayer and the sprayer onto the hose. So let's gather that back up in one breath. 1 cup of plain ammonia, 1 cup of Epsom salt, 1 teaspoon of dish soap, warm water. That is the entire recipe, and it's simpler than you think. If your sprayer has a dilution dial, set it to about 1 ounce per gallon. If it's the simple kind with no dial, don't worry. This mixture is gentle enough as it comes. Now out to the lawn, and this part is easier than mowing. Start along one edge of the yard. Walk at a steady, comfortable pace and sweep the spray side to side in front of you, the way you'd paint a fence with slow, even strokes. Overlap each pass a little, so no strip gets missed. 1 jar covers about 2,500 square feet, which is a typical front yard. If your lawn is bigger, mix a second batch rather than stretching the first one thin. And notice the light around you while you work, because you are doing this after supper, in the cool of the evening, with the sun low and the heat of the day gone. I keep saying evening, I know. Hold that thought just a little longer, because the why behind it is the best part of this whole video, and I promise it is worth the wait. One more sizing note before we leave the yard. If your lot runs 5,000 square feet, that is 2 batches, 1 for the front and 1 for the back. That's 2 batches, not 1 batch stretched thin, and not a double-strength batch either. The mixture stays the same. Only the number of jars changes. And if you finish a pass and can't remember whether you covered that strip by the mailbox, leave it be. A missed strip catches up on the next feeding. A double-sprayed strip is the one that tells on you. When the jar runs empty, you're done. There is no raking, no spreading, no washing granules off the driveway. Keep the kids and the pets off the grass for the rest of the evening. And if no rain or heavy dew comes overnight, Give the lawn a light 5-minute rinse with the hose in the morning to carry everything down to the roots. That morning rinse is cheap insurance, and it finishes the job. Now let me be straight with you about what happens next, because you may have seen pictures promising grass that explodes overnight. I ran a counter for 25 years, and I never once sold overnight. Here is what you will actually see. Within 3 to 5 days, the color turns. It's the kind of change your neighbor notices before you do, because you look at your lawn every day and he doesn't. After a second feeding, that deeper green settles in and stays. And by the third one, the lawn starts filling in thicker, not just greener. And thicker is the prize, because a thick lawn is your best weed control. Every square inch of dense grass is an inch where a crabgrass seed can't find the sunlight it needs to sprout. Trust me on this one. The prettiest lawns I ever saw in 25 years of ringing up customers were not the most sprayed lawns. They were the best fed ones, because the grass itself was doing the defending. 2 small housekeeping notes while we're being honest. Give the lawn a day or 2 after feeding before you mow, so the grass has time to take the meal in through the blade before you trim the blade off. And when you do mow, sharpen up and mow a touch higher than you're used to, 3 inches or so. Taller grass grows deeper roots. Deeper roots drink more of what you just fed them, and the shade from that extra height is one more door closed on the weeds. During spring and fall, when cool season grass is actively growing, you can repeat this feeding every 2 to 3 weeks. That's every 2 to 3 weeks, not every week. Grass can only eat so fast, and patience is cheaper than seed. Now, when does this start, and when does it stop? Cool season grass, and that is what most of us have from Ohio on north, does its real growing twice a year. Once in spring, once in fall. Your first feeding of the year goes down when the lawn has fully greened up on its own, and you've already mowed it 2 or 3 times, which for most of the country means sometime in May. Feeding earlier than that pushes soft top growth before the roots are ready, and the lawn pays for it in July. Then you feed every 2 to 3 weeks until the summer heat arrives, and you stop. All the way through the hot months, you stop. Then in September, when the nights cool off and the grass wakes back up, you start again. And I'll tell you a secret every old groundskeeper knows. The fall feedings are the ones that matter most. Fall is when grass banks its strength in the roots for next year, so the lawn you see next May is mostly built this September and October. Folks pour everything into spring and skip fall, and it should be the other way around. A few more questions I've fielded 100 times across that counter, so you don't have to wonder. Does it smell? For about an hour, yes, it smells like you cleaned a window outdoors. And then it's gone with the breeze. Can you use it on the flower beds or the vegetable garden? This mix is built for grass, so keep it on the lawn, and we'll talk gardens another day. What about the brown dog spots by the back door? This feeding will green up the ring around them, but the dead center needs seed, and that's its own little repair job. And what if it rains the morning after? A gentle rain is doing your rinsing for you. So say thank you and put the hose away. The one question I haven't answered yet is the evening question, and we are almost there. It is worth the wait, because it is the difference between this recipe being a blessing or a story you tell about the time you ruined your grass. Before we get to the evening secret, let me save you from the 5 mistakes I'd be warning you about across the counter, because every one of them walked through my door at some point. Mistake 1, doubling the ammonia. Somebody figures if 1 cup is good, 2 must be twice as good. 2 cups is how you stripe your lawn yellow. 1 cup. It was 1 cup an hour ago, and it's still 1 cup now. Mistake 2, grabbing the wrong bottle. Sudsy ammonia and scented ammonia carry extra ingredients your lawn never asked for. Plain and clear, every time. Mistake 3, spraying in the middle of a sunny day. We are 2 minutes from why, and it's the reason this recipe has enemies. Mistake 4, feeding a lawn that's mostly weeds, or feeding brown, dormant grass in a July heat wave. Fertilizer doesn't know the difference between bluegrass and clover, so clear the weeds first, and let a dormant summer lawn sleep. Feed it when it wakes up in September, and it will thank you. Mistake 5. Spraying right before a downpour. A gentle dew or a light rinse carries the food down to the roots. A gully washer carries it right past them and down the storm drain. And that helps nobody, including the creek at the end of your street. And that brings us to the part I promised you at the very start. Why does this mixture go down in the evening, and never under the midday sun? It comes down to 2 things the sun does to those droplets sitting on a grass blade, and once you hear them, you will never forget the rule. The first thing. The nitrogen in ammonia does not like staying dissolved when it gets hot. Spray this mixture across a lawn under a high noon sun, and as each little droplet warms up on the blade, that nitrogen literally turns back into a gas and drifts away into the air. It evaporates. You can stand in the middle of your own yard on a bright June afternoon and fertilize the sky. By supper time, a good share of your $3 has floated off over the neighbor's fence, and your grass never got a bite of it. The second thing is worse. As a droplet dries in the sun, the water leaves first, and whatever ammonia is left behind gets more and more concentrated, sitting in a shrinking bead right on the leaf. By the time that bead is nearly gone, it is strong enough to scorch the tissue underneath it. That is the tip burn. That is the brown speckling folks photograph and blame on the recipe. The recipe didn't burn their lawn. The clock did. Now flip it to evening, and everything reverses. The heat of the day is gone, so the droplets stay cool and the nitrogen stays dissolved right where you put it. The night dew settles in and carries the feeding gently down into the soil. And the roots drink all night long, hour after hour, with nothing evaporating and nothing concentrating. Same 3 ingredients, same $3. Opposite result. The recipe was never the difference between the success stories and the horror stories. The sun was. And now you know something the label on a $50 bag will never teach you, because there is no label on a kitchen recipe. And that kind of why, the part that decides whether a method works or fails, is exactly what I put into Larry's 30-day weed kill protocol. Feeding is tonight's job. The weeds are the other half, and the book walks you through them day by day for 30 days. Whys included, so you are never standing in the yard guessing. $17, down from $47, and it replaces that shelf of half-empty bottles in the garage that never quite worked. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So here it is in one breath. 1 cup of plain ammonia. 1 cup of Epsom salt. 1 teaspoon of dish soap. Warm water. And always, always in the evening. Tell me in the comments which weed is winning in your yard right now. Clover, crabgrass, dandelions, name it. I read every single one. And next time I'm going to show you the 10-day window coming next spring when 1 cheap bag of pre-emergent, that's the product that stops weed seeds before they ever sprout, can end your crabgrass problem before a single blade of it shows up in the driveway crack. You've got this, neighbor. I'll see you out on the lawn.